Good morning, everyone. So nice to see you. I'm going to be reading from Swamiji's Rays of the One Light. And this is week 31. The theme is called How Democratic is Truth? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. We live in an age when people assume that knowledge should be available equally to all. In matters susceptible of judgment by normal common sense, however, everyone knows there are exceptions. Access to a control room for intercontinental missiles is limited by universal consent to a very few. Access to the controls of a passenger airline is limited to those with the necessary knowledge for operating them and also to those with the proper authorization. If people don't see the disadvantages of making more subtle knowledge universally available, it is only because they are ignorant of the risks involved. In the case of subtle knowledge, the main disadvantage in making it universally available is the harm it might do to one who isn't ready for it and who might even mock it. True, by mocking truth, by mocking truth, he might undermine the faith of a few truth seekers. But then such tests can also be beneficial as a means of strengthening faith. Again, true, the clever doubter's misrepresentation of those truths may dissuade a few seekers from following the spiritual path. But if a seeker is really sincere, he will recognize the truth eventually because it resonates with his own being. No, the greatest problem accrues to the shallow doubter himself. To give him an opportunity to affirm his ignorance might only estrange him even more from the truth, delaying the time when he will return, as all people must eventually, to the light. Thus the scriptures advise not secrecy, but discretion in the sharing of truth. Christ says in the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 7, "Give not that which is holy unto dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and rend you." And Sri Krishna says in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, "Never speak of these truths to one who is without self-control or devotion, who renders no service, who does not care to hear, or who speaks ill of me." Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Could we have the full extent of the lights, please? There you are. Okay. Good morning. It's a very joyful morning. For us, it has been a very long morning. We've probably been up for nearly 8 hours now with the jet lag, but it has been a long-awaited moment to be able to see you all in person. We have been greeting many of you over Skype in these past weeks on the satsangs, and yet when I ask somebody, we've seen you every week, it doesn't feel like a long time? He said, it's been a long time. So it really has been that way for us too. We have missed you all, we have been thinking of you, and it's so nice to be back home. I wanted to read from Whispers from Eternity by Master. Make me silent, that I may eloquently converse with thee. Wandering through forests of incessant searching, I arrived at the mystery door which conceals thy presence. I knocked loudly on this door of silence with persistent blows of faith. At last the door opened, and I beheld thee resting on thy altar of glorious visions. I stood with restless gaze, waiting for thee to speak. Thy creation-making voice was inaudible. At last a deep stillness stole upon me and taught me in whispers the language of angels. With the lisping voice of my newborn freedom, I tried to speak. Suddenly, the lights in thy temple wrote brilliantly in letters of light. In my little chamber of quietness, I am ever at rest. I never speak now, but with the voice of silence. Through my silence, O divine lover, converse thou eloquently with me. This is a wonderful subject today. How democratic is truth? And these scripture quotes are quite strong, actually. When Krishna says, never speak of these truths to one who does not give service, to one who does not have, who is without devotion, and so on. It can seem that he's saying if people are not worthy, if they are not good enough, then don't share with them those precious things that will help them. It's almost as if, to take the thought to an extreme, being on the spiritual path ourselves, we can view it as the medicine that is helping us to heal, that is helping us to grow. And it may seem that Krishna is saying if people are not behaving, they are not worthy of medicine, which, they need the medicine even more, it would seem. And Christ, not to be outdone, takes it a bit further and says, do not render unto dogs. My God. I'm sure that meant something in Aramaic, and it certainly means something in India, in Tamil, every language there is. Don't say dog. Do not render unto dogs. Do not that which is holy, and do not put pearls before swine. Wow. So we have to understand first in the metaphysical sense that there is no dog, there is no swine, that all people are equally worthy of receiving these truths, as Christ and Krishna have said elsewhere. So when Christ is saying, don't give that which is holy unto dogs, he's saying someone who is having dog consciousness at the moment. A free soul who is for a time being obscured in a swine mood. That's all. And once this person is awakened out of that, then by all means, let them have the pearls and that which is holy. So we don't want it, there's no criticism or judgment of others as being lesser. But why, the key to it is what Krishna says also. He says that someone who doesn't give me service, who doesn't have devotion, one who does not care to hear. That is really the key to it. Don't tell them because they're not interested. You see, it's not don't tell them because they don't deserve it. It's don't tell them because they don't want it. And we could argue, well, that may, in the case, following this thought of medicine a little further, well, even if a child doesn't want medicine, when you're trying to get the medicine in there, you force the medicine in because you know it will heal the child, and you say, look, you don't know what's good for you, but I do, so you better just take it. But in this case, that analogy breaks down. Because whereas if someone is ill and in need of medicine, whether they like it or not, give it to them because it will heal them, that is not the case with spiritual truths. Why? In other words, it is actually damaging. It can be damaging to give someone spiritual truths when they do not care to hear. For example, somebody is stressed, upset, and you know they don't want to hear it, but you say, and I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but I have many times, why don't you just try meditation? And they go, don't you speak to me. I know you want to convert people, and I don't want to hear it, and so on. Even Sri Yukteswar's mom said to him, nay, I am not your disciple. Go away now. And so we get that treatment all the time, especially from those who are nearest and dearest to us. Not always, but often. More often than not. So you could say, well, so what? I mean, you said here it is, and they said Vaindam, so what's the harm? The harm is that later, when they are a little more open, perhaps, to the thought of meditation, and they have some high BP, and the doctor says, you might try meditation, and they say, don't bring that up again. Don't tell me again. Don't bother me. In other words, we have prejudiced them against the medicine. We've prejudiced them against the truth by bringing it up. Now when they hear that, they remember how they felt when we were basically being pushy on them. So it harms them, you could say, in a way, to bring it up too directly before. Now, does that mean we should never talk about these things? Of course not. But again, it's impossible to make one point without, committing to it. There are other points too. But let's just stick to this one perspective. Why, then, does Jesus say, don't bring it up? Because he says they will trample these things under their feet. So that's the first thing. We've already covered that. And that's not good for them or their feet. It's not good for them. It's bad karma for them to disrespect these things. So why give them that opportunity? But the other is, he says, and turn about and rend you. Meaning cut you. Rend, of course, means to cut. And so why expose ourselves? That which is most precious to us. Why offer it like that if it's going to just be disregarded? Again, I've talked about, as Swamiji points out, the harm it does to the person themselves, the doubter himself. That's the real person at risk. Not that he will maybe damage our faith by saying all these disrespectful things or whatever. That's a good test. I've gone through that test myself too. But I was thinking about this and wondering, why does this have to be said at all? What is the temptation to a devotee to be sharing all of these things? I mean, and for some people there is no temptation. They keep it so secret that no one ever knows of their devotion. And that's, of course, a beautiful attitude, but not the one that we're considering today. So, what is the temptation to a devotee to share these things broadly, and therefore the masters have to counsel not secrecy, but discretion? Be discreet. Choose wisely whom you share these things with for their sake. Okay, just so the point is clear. Now, I think sometimes the temptation can be, when we're new on the path, that we have found a good thing. And naturally, in our enthusiasm for it, we want to share it with others. That which has given us joy, we want to share that joy. When I was in college, we were always endlessly philosophizing and debating about the meaning of life, which is about the right thing to do when you're in college, and perhaps beyond. But when I found Autobiography of a Yogi, I said, this is the answer. And whereas everyone was happy to talk abstractions when there was nothing on the line, as soon as it became specific, they said, Advaita. Definitely I do not want that. And they took a big step back, and I said, no, you don't understand. This is where we've been heading in these explorations and finding the truth. And they said, and a truth. Yarika or whatever, I'm a little out of practice with Tamil right now, so I don't know if I'm ever in practice, but definitely if I am, I'm not now. And so this idea that I don't want that, that's not something I'm interested in. And I said, wait a minute. I had a friend who I was really trying to convince that he should read Autobiography of a Yogi, and making perhaps a beginner's mistake. The more he resisted, the more I tried to make my case. No, maybe you just haven't understood the first 99 arguments. But maybe this one, that just makes something. No, if it is the last book on earth, I will not read it. Okay, fine. So then, we were having dinner, and having said no, then the dessert came, and I had tried the mango ice cream at this particular restaurant, and I had some of it. I said, wow, this is so good. You have to try it. He said, no. I said, look, I didn't put anything in it. Just try it. Okay, fine. So then he tried it and went, this is the best thing I've ever tasted. And I couldn't help it. I said, you see? But it never worked. To this day still, he's just said Advaita. So that natural enthusiasm, fine. So another temptation, I think, that comes early on the path is that naturally, as we discover these things, we're very happy for them, but in addition to wanting to share our enthusiasm, we want others to kind of come along with us, because if there are more of us, it sort of reassures us in the choices we've made. We find a lot of people critical, actually, of the spiritual path. Wait until sannyasi stage of life, which now is when you turn 98 and a half. Then you can meditate. Before then, no Hong Sa, please. And so then you want to get others into it so they can say, yes, yes, we all think this way. To get that endorsement of other people agree with me, and that's what makes it true. And we find that really that doesn't matter how many people. If we're with the masters, it's fine. If we're not, it's not fine. In fact, there was a quote it posted in the group. I think Muller, you posted this quote from Master, which was very much in this same spirit. If the whole world is pleased with you, but God and Guru are displeased, you have failed in life. But if the whole world turns against you, criticizes and blames you, but you have won the praise, the approval of God and Guru, know that you have succeeded in this world or in this life. And whereas we can hear it and say, yes, 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 look in terms, we have to question our motives sometimes in what we are seeking. Are we trying to say, yes, I want to please God and Guru, and I want everyone else to applaud also? I want to please God and Guru, but I also want the family that they should say, yes, yes, I greatly approve of what you're doing. Swamiji said that when he joined the spiritual path, his brother wrote to him and said, couldn't you have at least asked our father for permission before you left and joined Yogananda? And Swamiji said, yes, I could just imagine my father saying, oh, please, drive across the country and join an Indian guru and live as a monk, by all means. And of course he would never have given his permission. But luckily, Swamiji's parents were safely, as he said, away in Egypt. There was nothing they could do. That was not the days of quick flights where you could get across the country. It would take them at least a month to come back. So they were more or less helpless. And when they did come back, then he was safely ensconced in his guru's ashram. So ask yourself if your actions are pleasing to God. Are they pleasing to Guru? Seek God's pleasure, because you will be fed by that. We will be comforted when we feel the Guru's inner smile. We will feel soothed. We will feel whole. And then it won't matter if somebody says, well, I think you're an idiot. Say, well, I am an idiot. Until I'm one with God, we're all idiots. And that includes you. No, baby, don't add that last part. But you see, we don't have to worry too much about what others are thinking. And why does Divine Mother let us go through all these tests? Why does she make it hard for us? Why is it so often the devotee has to face criticism and of the world and so on? Well, in one way it makes us stronger. It helps us to see, are we committed to the truth? You see, it's not that she's saying you have to commit to me, although that's true too, but it's because it represents the truth. It is the only joy you can have in this life. I won't even say in this world, because it's not of the world. It's in this life. All the joy we are seeking, all the love, all the comfort, all the strength, it all masquerades as things in the world. And again, we can say, yes, yes, yes. No, I've read the Gita, I know. But we look for it in our motivations. Look for it when we have desires. Look for it in our actions. Am I doing this to please God? Am I doing this with God's pleasure? Or am I also doing it at a little bit of yes, yes, but maybe then this person will like me? You see? It's not wrong if you find yourself seeking that human affection. It's not wrong. It's natural. But try to uplift it. To say, I want God's love. If it comes through this channel, fine. I will give God's love. If I give it to this person and they reject it, I know it will still reach God somehow. If nothing else, it makes God and I feel closer and closer. So, remember though also that there are some things that really no one will understand except the Guru. Swamiji said, in Master I had the truest friend, the one who would never misunderstand me. He was surrounded by other direct disciples of Master, but it's so easy for one word to be misunderstood, just what you have said the person takes in the opposite way, or in an act when we're feeling tense or irritable, we say something cutting to somebody, a loved one, and normally when we're angry we say things we don't even mean. That's the sad part, and just the thing you didn't mean is what the other person remembers and hangs on to. I can't believe you said that. If you don't believe me, just remember when it's in the reverse, when we're the recipient. The person probably doesn't mean it, and even if they do, probably they need a dolo or something to get rid of the headache or whatever it is that's making them uncomfortable. So let us remember most of all that though we want to share with anybody who's interested, anybody who cares to hear, and what do we share? Is it the time to start trotting out the Ashtanga Yoga and say, let us begin with Yama? Maybe not. As Master said, preach through the autobiography of a yogi. Give it to others. They will be saved, as he said. Saved from what? Saved from suffering. Think about how much that book has saved you. I know it certainly has changed the course of my life, and entirely for the better. I don't know where I would be without that book. Well, I do know where I would be. Nowhere. Just walking around in circles, wondering where the exit is. So, give the book to others who are interested. And if you have no one around you who's interested, then just continue to share with God. Share with your Guru. And share with the friends you do have. And in time, that light will grow. And others will be interested, if nothing else, because they will see that despite all of their harassments, you are calmer. As one relative said to someone on this path, you used to cry all the time. Now you don't cry anymore. You just take things calmly. I wondered if he ever put together, why was the person crying? And did you have any responsibility for it? But no, at least he could appreciate that there was less crying now. And as the children have often said, Mama, you're nicer now. And so people will see that change, and that will intrigue them. That will attract them. Everybody actually wants to be self-possessed and composed. So keep these thoughts in mind. And but above all, as I said, share with God.